Welcome to the Chamber Vibes podcast with your host, Brittany Timmons, the Greater Guthrie Chamber of Commerce CEO and President. In this podcast, you will hear from local guests who will discuss topics such as leadership, small business, and our vibrant community. You'll also hear success stories and tips from amazing local businesses, dive into important news, meet community leaders, and find out how you can get involved in our community. From the Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful and historic downtown Guthrie, America, here is Brittany Timmons.
Hello, everyone. This is Brittany with the Guthrie Chamber, and it is time once again for Chamber Vibes.
Yay.
Yay. So I will just dive right in and introduce today's guest. I have Stacey Frazier with Guthrie Ghost Walk. How are you, friend?
I am doing all right.
You're doing all right. Okay, good.
Tired of the heat.
Oh,
Can we
this
just
summer
quit?
has been gross.
Can we just stop?
Yeah, I
we
just
just
turn
stop
it
now?
off.
Yeah.
I think I saw a sign the other day that was like, whatever you're cooking, God, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm quite over it as well. So I like walking around downtown and not taking my car everywhere. But
Yeah.
right now I get cranky if I get hot and
it's-
sweaty just walking a block. So
We all look like ninjas trying
Right.
to stay in the shade.
right. So on that note, Guthrie Ghost Walk.
Guthrie Ghost Walk.
Guthrie Ghost Walk. Okay, so I know, and I say this a lot too, there's a lot of people that have been around Guthrie for a long time that listen to the podcast, but we have a ton of new people here. We have a ton of new businesses. We have a ton of new families here. So let's just talk history of Guthrie Ghost Walk.
History of Guthrie Ghost Walk. Many moons ago, when I was but a pup. No. It was actually it's almost 10 years ago now. I was in Victoria, Canada for a wedding.
Okay.
And I'm walking around the town, and I realized, man, this town looks a lot like Guthrie. A lot of red brick, kind of the same established timeline and such. And I was there for a wedding, and the night before the wedding, we all went on a ghost walk. And as I was walking around, I really felt that Guthrie vibe. It felt like that. And the more I listened to the stories, the more I realized we've got better stories than this.
And you're in Canada.
And I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
think about it. Canadian
Right.
ghosts, they're all going to be
Right.
polite. So,
Okay. Yeah.
So, I couldn't get it out of my head, and I got back here and was talking to some friends about it. And I'm not born and raised in Guthrie, but my mom was,
Okay.
and my whole family on her side was. So Guthrie has always been the place that we would come back to for every holiday and every event so I've roamed these streets a lot. And I had heard some stories just through family and friends, but I decided to kind of dig into some of the ones that I had heard. And that was when I realized what an incredible connection there was through these stories to the history of the town. And so I rounded up about 6 stories. Took about a year to flesh them out, because that's one of the things that it's the way I started it, and it's the way I will continue to do it, and it's the way, if it ever ends with me, this is the way it'll end. I will not put any story on any of the routes, and I've got like 8 of them, because I've got like 60-some stories at this point.
Right.
But I will not put any story on the route that I cannot backstop in some shape or fashion. I mean, obviously, you're never going to be able to prove a ghost story.
Right.
Otherwise, it'd be a whole different thing, and I'd be charging a lot more. And private tours, yeah.
I could guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah.
An experience.
I actually did have a lady ask for a refund. I didn't see a ghost.
Oh.
I know, it's sad. But unless I can go back and qualify, dates, names, historical account. And it's amazing how much you can find. And to me, that's what makes it interesting, is when the facts surrounding the story start to line up. That makes it not only possible, but plausible. That's why I always talk about the mystery behind the history. And in the end, it's a really sneaky way of teaching people the history of Guthrie, is what it is. So yeah, I started out that first walk a little over 8 years ago, and it was just a one-time thing, and then picked some more up. I'm at the point now where I walk year-round.
I know. That's what I was going to say. Like, do you even have an idea of how, if you could just guess, and this is one of those things you're gonna be like, Brittany, you didn't ask me this before.
Ask me the question.
We went on record. No, about how many people?
It's over 7,000.
7,000. You were ready for that
I can
question.
account for over 7,000 people.
7,000 people. Wow.
You know?
Well, and I know just in our office, we're always like, you need to do this, and I need to send Viv from my office.
Oh.
I will say, personally, I haven't done it in a while. It's been since before I was with the chamber. So I need to come out, bring the fam, and do it again. But it's definitely, so you're seeing people from all over. Now, I know probably occasionally you have some Guthrie people, but it's
that's true. But and everybody seems to be surprised about that. I've had people that have they make Guthrie Aid stop on their destination. Is what I'm seeing a lot of.
Wow.
Is that they will Indianapolis. I've got a couple that always goes from Indianapolis to Dallas to visit family, and they've come 3 years in a row.
How fun.
I've had people I have people that drive down for the weekend from Wichita, Kansas, just to do the Ghost Walk.
That's awesome.
So there's your economic impact.
Oh, absolutely. I already knew that.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I wanted them listening to know.
I started thinking about that, and I thought, Lord, these people have to eat, they have to drink, they have to stay somewhere.
Because what time do you usually start the walks? I know it changes with the year.
It's usually either 7:15 or 8:15. It depends on the time change, and lately it has depended on the heat. I've actually had to suspend a few walks just because, once they issue the heat advisory, nope, we're not going.
Right, because it's still 118
Well, I did.
7 o'clock at night.
I tried to push a couple of them back to 10 o'clock, and it was still 96 degrees. And I went, okay, no.
And they're
even
standing out there.
The ghosts are sweating. We don't want to do this.
Right.
That's just not good.
Give them a break.
Sweaty ghosts, no. They just need the night off because it's bad.
Right.
It's bad.
Yeah, so if people want to do the Ghost Walk, I know you meet at the Apothecary Garden.
We meet at the Apothecary Garden, which the address I like to give people, because the minute you tell somebody it's at the intersection of Oklahoma Avenue and 2nd Street, they go, what? Because nobody knows how to put that information into their map.
Right.
So I just tell them 214 West Oklahoma.
Okay.
And that's right there at the
Drugstore Museum?
The Drugstore Museum and the Apothecary. And I'll tell them, I'll be on the sidewalk, so they, of course, go into the pavilion in the back, and I have to go get them. But that's okay, because it's shady back there. So, But yeah, that's generally what I found to be the best place to start. And it's a central location. It's a place where people can gather, not piled up on the sidewalk.
Right.
And it's pretty centrally located to all of the stories, because all of the stories I do right now are in the historic downtown area. I go as far west. I've got one story. The farthest west I have is I go to the depot.
Okay.
But I do not cross the train tracks.
Right.
Because we're not playing
no
that.
crossing the tracks.
Negative Ghost Rider.
Right.
Even the
well,
story.
then they get to see the depot.
Well, they do.
So that's awesome. So
And
I was like, this is like an architectural tour.
The depot was the very first story I did. If I do the original jail, the black jail.
Yes.
Never crossed that street. I used to tell it from the parking lot of the funeral home, which was fun too.
Right, for a ghost walk.
But it's been more difficult to tell that story from that area now because of the bridge construction.
Sure.
But I have figured out a way to include it from 2nd Street, so you can still see enough of the building that I can still tell the
kind
story
of point
enough.
and show them.
And then I go as far east as the courthouse.
Okay.
And then Vilas. No, not Vilas. No, what is it?
Wentz?
Going south. Oh my Lord, where's
Springer?
Gateway Real Estate?
Springer?
I think so. But we've got them all in. We've got them all
Springer.
in there. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, now you're putting me on.
I know. Now there's going to be a quiz. We need a map. Back here. We need a map and a pointer.
Because we all know
and
these
a big
things.
finger. We know that street. Vilas used to be called Vine Street. That's all I know.
Oh.
Because, let's just confuse it as much as possible.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
but-
So you said a little over 8 years.
A little
as
over
far
8
as
years.
the history. I know, just because I know you and I've talked to you and I've done Friday Faces, but I know this is not a fun question that we bring up, but I feel like it's important just with still dealing with it. But COVID. What did COVID look like for the Guthrie Ghost Walk?
Well, at the time that COVID hit, I was also working at Guthrie Pet Hospital. and we shut down over there for 2 weeks to kind of reset. And I pretty much suspended the Ghost Walk for about 3 months, just in those early days when our number, I mean, Guthrie, the mask mandate we had here when it first hit, I think slowed us into the entry of it, so it gave a lot of people a chance to get vaccinated, but it gave us a 3-month window off. And then when I did come back, masks were required. We limited the crowd size.
Right.
And there was a lot of social distancing and a lot of hand sanitizer, because everybody who comes gets the stylish glow-in-the-dark wristband.
Yes.
Yes. And everybody's like, oh, is this so, what's this for? And I always like to tell them what, so I can identify the bodies later. So,
right.
Which just makes the kids go, what?
Right.
But
Mom, what did you bring me on?
What did you bring me on? And oh yeah. Oh, parents throw their kids under the bus like you would not believe.
Right.
Scare them to death.
Here's $5 extra.
Here's $5 extra. This is not Guthrie Haunts,
Right.
John Pagonis.
Right.
You get the
Now you can pay extra
touch
for
and grab.
extra things.
I'm like, no, why would I do that? But I do. I have parents that have called me. My favorite one was this lady. She said, my son is 7 and he would like to talk to you. Hello? He said, is anything going to jump out and scare me? And I said, buddy, if it does, you and I both are going to take care of it, because that's not what we do here.
Right.
And I
That's
just
adorable.
I just recently had somebody ask me, well, because everybody always wants to know, ooh, have you had anything happen on a ghost walk? Well, not necessarily that I know of, but I've had people say, what's the scariest thing you've ever encountered? And I'm like, well, tax season.
Right.
But
115 degree heat.
yeah,
days.
115 degree heat. And I had somebody call me, wanted to go on a walk last week. It was 106 degrees, and it was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, no.
Love you, but yeah.
But I was trying to explain to them that I don't necessarily seek out those stories. One, because those are the ones that fall apart when you start to dig into them and you start to try and track it down to an individual, or you try and track it down to an event. Those stories generally are more anecdotal. So, I mean, some of the stories I've got, if anything, some of them are incredibly sad, and some of them are just wonderful. There's one that we tell about the old grocery store down, which is now where the Pollard Funeral Home used to be down there. And it's one of my favorite stories. I mean, I've had people weeping in the streets. It's just that good of a story. But no, it's not always those stories. So if you're looking for haunted house, this is not what we do.
Right.
This is finding those stories and relating them to the location and the events that occurred around it. And I've looked at a lot of reviews. I try not to look at the reviews online, because you'll just want to beat yourself over the head
Well,
with your shoe.
people are cruel. They hide behind their screens.
Yeah. But some of them, a lot of them actually start out with, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but it turned out so much better than I could have wanted. And it's because it's a different take on it. And I think that's what it is.
Not every town has this opportunity.
Well, exactly.
I mean, and like I said before, you are providing an architectural, I get that word right?
Yeah.
Tour as well,
Right, yeah.
and so they're...
Oh, Harrison. Oh, my God.
Right.
Harrison Street.
Right. And so it's like that adds so much more value too,
Yeah.
plus the stories.
Yes.
And that's just something unique that I don't know a lot of towns that
On
have.
Harrison, between First and Division, I have a story in almost every single building.
Wow.
That I can go back and get names and dates, and it's insane. Not to mention that, I'm like, okay, there's Russian, there's neoclassical, there's, we got the half a castle over there, the Gothic. So it's interesting. A lot of people will say, well, I don't know if my kids would be interested in that. And I'm like, do they like this, that, the other? And they're like, yeah, bring them.
Right. So what ages? You do all...
When I do the
have
walks,
all ages attend,
I say that it's suitable for all ages, and I make it suitable for all ages with the language that I use.
Right.
Obviously, when we get around to the Bluebell, you got to be a little careful.
Right.
It's amazing how many words you can come up with to replace the obvious
Yes.
one. Bordello.
Right.
Brothel.
Right.
And there's always somebody's dad that has to jump. And you mean? I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
So there's a,
didn't ask you to speak,
We didn't
sir.
ask you to speak. Just and the wife is like slap.
Right.
Shut up, Wayne.
Yeah.
But I do
hilarious.
try and make it accessible for everyone, and it's interesting because I do see people on occasion that go, well, I was hoping for something more scary. I lay it all out there on the website and on the Facebook page. I try to be very transparent with that.
You do. And you do a Halloween walk.
Oh my Lord!
Yes.
When we get
No,
into
that's something you
October,
look forward to.
August has always been my slack month. It used to be because the first week in August I would go to Vegas to the Star Trek convention, but those are my pirate days. They're behind me now a little bit. But because of the heat and school getting back up and stuff, and I thought I turned that off.
That's okay.
But the one thing that we try and do when we get into October September, October, is we start trying to add some more dates, because normally it's Fridays and Saturdays, 7:15, and we'll do that all through September. Towards the end of September, I do start adding like 10 o'clocks on Fridays and Saturdays. By the time we hit October, giddy up.
Yes.
Because I do a special Halloween walk, and I will do a midnight walk.
I've seen you do that.
Oh my Lord.
Yes.
Those are the fun walks for people to go on. Go on the Halloween, or not the Halloween, if Halloween falls on the Friday or Saturday. Go on that last midnight walk, because that night I will have done a 7:15, a 10 o'clock, and then I'm doing a midnight. And by that time, God only knows what I'm talking about, because
You're delirious.
it may be Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I may suddenly realize I'm telling you an old episode of Gilligan's Island, and we don't know what it is. But no, I do try.
Yeah,
I do try and make it to where it's available for all the kids. One of the best questions that I ever asked, I had a group there, and it was a family reunion. We had like 30 people there, and there's this one little girl who's about 6. But there were a lot of kids, and so hey, so what do you guys think a ghost is? And they're doing the thing, it's the spirit, it's the soul, and this little girl raised her hand. I'm like, thank you for raising your hand. And she goes, I think a ghost is a person with a sheet over them. And we all just went, yes it is. That's exactly right. And everybody was like, good girl, Kayla. She goes, no, wait, I'm not done. She goes, it's a person with a sheet over them, and when you take the sheet off, there's no one there.
Oh, okay.
Things took a turn.
Right.
Holy cow.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's adorable.
we do that. But
how many people have you had at one time?
The largest group
walk.
we had was 82 people.
Okay.
And Stephanie Fortney. Yes. She's under strict orders when she's walking the script, as we call it. We divvied them up that night. But no, Stephanie Fortney actually is my backup, which comes in handy if I've got something going on, something with my mom, or if I'm out of town or something. But no, when Stephanie walks, when she's walking the schedule, she has her marching orders, which is why we also had to start including, about 3 years ago, we started what we call the Steph Specials.
Yes, I've seen you post
the Steph
about that. Okay.
Specials, twice a year, I just turn Stephanie loose. And it is advertised as, it's advertised with a disclaimer. Guthrie Ghost Walk, LLC, cannot be held accountable for the validity of anything that may or may not come out of Stephanie Fortney's mouth.
That's hilarious.
One time it turned into a pub crawl.
Okay.
Which, when you consider, this was before Mac and I.
Right,
so
I was
we
like,
had
and now
two
we have
places
Mac,
to go.
now we have Mac and I.
So, but those get pretty darn hysterical, because she goes off the rails sometimes, but then she'll like to, but it's funny, because she will have people on that walk that have been with me, and they'll go, you got that wrong. And she's like,
yeah. They're like, I know the walk now.
And that's the other thing. So many people are like, so you just make this, my mom, so you just make this stuff up. Yes, absolutely. I have made up stories for 8 years, and I memorized it. Why?
Right.
I'm not that good. Good God. But
no, you have talked to a lot of people and done your research.
And they come back. And if you don't get it right,
Right.
They're going to call you on it because they will. I had a little girl that came back. She was 9. She had bought Tanya McCoy's book, who she is runs Oklahoma Paranormal Association.
Oh, yes.
And she does a lot of the books, Haunted Guthrie, Haunted Oklahoma. But she did put several of my stories in there. And the girl had the book, and she's checking them. What gets me, I'm like, she's like, okay, that's right. You got that right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So-
Well, I am glad that, I know, COVID is COVID and super challenging for every business, no matter what.
We
type of
found a way to
business.
make it work.
You did, and I'm grateful that also you had a business and an event that could be outside.
That's just it.
That you were
Yeah.
able to say, okay, with precautions, we can continue and do this in a safe way, and that way you weren't completely shut down for
And people were
6 months
incredibly
and-
gracious about doing
right,
it.
because they wanted to do things,
they wanted
but they
to
wanted
go
to feel
outside.
safe, right? So yeah, I'm glad you were able to navigate that
Yes.
and kind of overcome that. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I think you're so much fun. If you have not done the Guthrie Ghost Walk, I don't care if you've been here for 20 years, you need to call up Stacy and do it.
I'm recognizing a pattern. We've turned into like the bridesmaid trip. We literally have. A bunch of bridesmaids show up, with their feather boas and everything, and they're like, scare us. And I'm like, I did this one
Scare
night.
us before we
She
head
goes-
out to the
She
bar.
goes, scare me. I said, okay, let me tell you about marriage.
You're like,
She's
since
like,
you're getting
"Oh,
married
God."
tomorrow or
Yeah.
next week. That's hilarious.
But we do a lot of family reunions. I also do step-on historic bus tours.
Right.
We had several years ago somebody at City Hall was like, well, Guthrie doesn't do bus tours. I'm like, you're going to have to tell that to the village tour bus that I have outside because, yeah, we do.
Right.
But
so
if
someone does have a group,
yeah,
they just need to call you
That's it.
because
Yeah.
if you're available and it can work in your schedule with their schedule, I
Yeah.
mean, you'll do kind of a separate event.
yeah, exactly.
From the Ghost Walk.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've done a couple of them lately, even with the
That's
heat.
great.
That's the glory of the air-conditioned bus.
Right.
I did a ghost walk.
I will step on your air-conditioned bus.
I did a ghost walk for a group of, it was a church group of seniors out of Tulsa, and they called me up and they said, we want to do a ghost walk. I'm like, cool. She goes, we don't want to walk. I'm like, okay. We have a bus. Good. Okay. We also don't want to do it at night. Okay. She goes, no, because they had to, hit the Sizzler
Right.
buffet.
Right.
We ended up doing a ghost drive at 11 o'clock on a Saturday
air
morning.
conditioning and not
then,
walking.
And then they wanted out, and then we just all went to Brahms. And I said, we'll just, they wanted to do a tour of the temple, and they weren't doing them there. I said, let's
Right.
just go to Brahms. Well, I'll buy you all ice cream, and we'll talk about the temple.
That is awesome. So,
I
you're-
have had 3 different people that have met their eventual spouse on the walk. It was the first date.
Wow.
One of them, not only did their first date was on the walk, but he did an ambush engagement on the walk, and I actually performed the ceremony.
Oh my gosh.
One-stop shopping.
Was
right
it
there.
all in one time event, or there was 3
No,
different?
there was 3. It was over the course of a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. One-stop shopping.
You could do all the things, Stace.
I am a
All the
Renaissance woman.
All the things.
All the things.
All the things. I love it. Okay, so you're doing walks right now, heat pending. So people just need to follow you on Facebook.
Right.
Right? Guthrie Ghost Walk.
Right. Right now, we're making determinations on Wednesday for the upcoming
Okay.
weekend, if we're going to walk or not.
Okay.
So, this weekend's looking pretty good.
Good. Okay, good. And then Guthrie, what's the website?
GuthrieGhostWalk.com.
Okay. Yes, and there's info there of how to get a hold of you, how to get tickets. Do people need to, I know it helps you with numbers, but do people need to get a ticket beforehand, or can they just show up?
I actually don't sell tickets beforehand.
Okay.
Because we are so weather dependent that what I like people to do is call me or text me and say, hey, I've got 4 people I think we want to come. Because that gives me an idea of how many people I'm going to have. And it also gives me a point of contact to get back with them and go, storms are coming. We're going to push the start time back.
Right.
So, yeah. But all ticket sales, all money transfer takes place at the time of the walk.
Okay.
It's just easier. That way, if something happens with them, we don't have to try and do refunds and such
Sure.
like that. So
That
it's
makes it
just-
nice.
It's just easier.
And easy. Cool. That's awesome. Well, before we close, I know you are really involved in Christmas Foundation. You're also very involved with the Bluegrass Festival. You do a lot, friend. You do a lot in our
That's
community.
because I don't get up early.
Well,
No, I miss meetings, and
Right.
I get appointed into stuff.
oh, okay. Yeah, you get voluntold.
I get volunteered.
Yeah,
That's why I ended up the park ranger, for God's sake.
I know. I've been guilty of
Yes.
voluntelling people
Voluntelling.
as well. But then I also have been voluntold. So
Yes.
I've been on both sides
Speaking
of
of
that.
which, we need to talk.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, well, okay. Oh my God, need
Don't
to
you
stop.
laugh, Chris.
No.
We'll get to you later.
That's hilarious. But really quick before we do close, I always like to ask, why Guthrie? I know you obviously fall in love with the history and you love it and you had ties here.
Mm-hmm.
But, what is one of your favorite things about Guthrie? And which that might be a loaded question.
It
I
was a
know.
dark and stormy
I
night.
know.
I think one of the biggest things, the memories that I have of Guthrie when I was a kid would be when we would come up and visit my aunts and uncles, because my grandmother lived in Midwest City where we lived. And so coming up to visit my aunts and uncles, Uncle Raymond was big in rodeo. He was the fire chief. I mean, it was those wonder years, really, is what it was, that have those. I mean, I got to slide down the pole in the fire station. Don't do that without long pants on, by the way.
Noted.
So there's a tie to those memories, and there's also the fact that it hit me one night while I was doing the walk that I'm running the streets my mom ran when she was a kid,
Yeah.
which is very bizarre because we grew up in the military. My dad was military,
Right.
so we moved every 3 years. I can't even tell, I went to like 13 schools in 12 years. I never really had the essence of that hometown feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Midwest City a little bit, but, it was hit and miss. But Guthrie was one of those places that was always the same when we came back, except
Right.
for that ridiculous downtown when they all had the funky storefronts and they covered up the original
Right.
buildings, and that was wrong.
Right.
But I think that's what a lot of it is. It's just that it's that familial link that seems to tie to the town. I see footprints in concrete around here, and I wonder how far back does that go?
Right.
Old Chuck Bircher took me to the fire station one time and had me run my hand down the front of the bricks by the door in the front. And he goes, "Nobody will know what this is, so I'm telling you." I'm like, "What is it?" And he goes, "Back before they had air conditioning, the guys would come out in the middle of the night in their ladder-back chairs and lean up against the brick and watch the ladies of the evening get arrested and such out there. But they would just come sit outside, and over the years, it wore those bricks smooth,
Oh,
just for
wow.
about a 2-foot area. It's just the fact that you can go back and say, this is representative of someone who I used to know and who I remember in this situation. So it's kind of an adoptive hometown type
Sure.
of thing.
I get it. Same
Yeah.
for me. Not born and raised here,
That
but
and
this is home.
There's just a lot of wacky people in this town. It's not just me.
It keeps things interesting,
Oh,
for sure.
God.
Yes. Well, I can tell, and I know people that have known you for a long time and see what you do, that you love Guthrie, and you choose Guthrie over and over, because you wouldn't be walking our streets telling people about it if you didn't love what you do.
There you go.
And
What is it?
definitely
Find a job you love and you'll never
work a day in your life. And that's really weird that you just quoted that, because at Rotary meetings, someone said the same thing. It's just, I 100% believe that. And I think that you're a true, you are the essence of that. You can tell you love what you do. And you are spreading Guthrie to so many people
Oh, yeah.
visiting our community. And like I said, you've had repeat customers.
Oh, my gosh.
And visitors and people
Yeah.
coming back, and then they're telling people, and it's just awesome.
And
So I just commend you on that.
every once in a while, somebody walks out and hands me a Dr. Pepper.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that
so
always
that
helps.
helps too.
That helps. There you go. Hint,
Hint.
hint.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr.
love-
Pepper for Stacy.
I like ice cream too, Kara.
Yeah.
But,
Oh,
yeah. No, the
Yes.
girls in Boomerang have always taken really good care of me.
Yeah. That's
Keep an
nice.
eye.
When you're doing your walks.
And
yes.
I have to say that. Well, that's what I'm talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the police in Guthrie have always been incredibly attentive to me, especially on those late walks.
Right.
To the point
That's
where
awesome.
they're pretty much a part of the tour now, because we do the don't make eye contact, and they boop us with the thing, and then they get on their loudspeaker and go, "Ooh." Well, okay, fine. So yeah,
Hilarious.
no, it's
Awesome.
been a very supportive community downtown.
That's
for
great.
this.
All right, I'm glad you're doing well. I know you're gearing up for the fall and Halloween time. That's a busy time for you.
Yep.
and exciting. So is there anything else? I know we didn't really get to touch too much on Bluegrass, but if you want to volunteer for Bluegrass, will that help you?
Yes. Bluegrass Festival this
Call
year.
Stacy.
This is our 25th event, you know, because we had to skip a year. It's been, not going to lie, it's been rough without
Yes,
Byron.
right.
We had a lot of changes we had to deal with. Last year was just a get through it, and it came out well. This year is going to be amazing. The festival itself is the 6th, 7th, and 8th of October. Campground opens the Saturday prior to that. I still have some slots open if anybody wants to give me a shout.
Yes.
And
Come by the chamber. We'll help you.
yeah,
We'll help
you
connect
volunteer
with
a
you,
shift
so
and you get a free 3-day pass and a sweet righteous T-shirt.
there you go. Awesome. Well, good. Glad we could plug that in because I know how important that is to you and just one of the other many things that you do here in Guthrie and for Guthrie. So anything else about the Ghost Walk we didn't cover?
Anything else about the Ghost Walk we didn't
We
cover?
said the website.
With the website, phone number is, you know what I learned? You can put your phone number on those little wristbands.
Marketing.
Those are handy, yeah.
There you go.
Facebook is probably one of the fastest ways to get in touch with
Okay.
me. The phone number's listed there, and it's an instantaneous response almost, so.
Cool.
Yeah, but if you've got a group you want to go, we do private walks, so.
Yeah, or bus rides.
Bus rides.
Air conditioning.
Sweet.
I
Bring
mean-
the family van.
Right, with AC.
I'll get in the car with strangers.
Oh my God! And on that note, we will end the podcast. No,
Stacy
anyway,
do? She walks the streets and she gets in the car with strangers.
that's hilarious. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Well, thank you.
I
for
hope
allowing me
our
to be
listeners
your
learned
guest.
something new. I was super pumped to get you on here and talk about the walk and all the challenges and things that you've overcome. And I'm sure we could go on and on with cool stories and things like that, but only have so much time, but I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
All right, friends, there you have it. Stacy with Guthrie Ghost Walk. Find her on social media and keep up with all that she has going on. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you next time.
Cue the cute music.
Thanks for listening to the Chamber Vibes podcast from Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful downtown Guthrie, America.